Welcome, students. Today we're going to talk about the powers and responsibilities of Congress. We're going to look at how Congress is organized. We're going to look at specific roles for specific members of Congress. And we're going to examine how Congress exercises its powers generally and specifically to check and balance the other branches of government. So let's dive right in. Congress is, of course, our legislative branch, and the part of the Constitution that organizes Congress and the legislative branch is Article 1. It's the part of the Constitution that describes how Congress is going to work, what sort of things Congress can and cannot do. So all of the information in the Constitution, at least, that you need to know about to sort of examine how Congress works is all found in Article 1, the first and largest article of the Constitution. Our Congress is described as bicameral. Bicameral is just a fancy word that means two houses or two chambers, two rooms, two sections. And the two sections that make up this bicameral legislature are the House of Representatives, which is one of the houses, and then the Senate, the United States Senate. So those are your two chambers, your two houses that make up our bicameral Congress. The House of Representatives is organized in a certain way and does certain things. There are 435 members of the House of Representatives. And remember that the representation in the House that a state gets is based on the number of people that live in that state. So if you have more people living in your state, you get more of those 435 representatives. But if you have only a small number of people in your state, you get a smaller number. Each state has at least one representative, and these representatives, no matter which state they come from, have to meet certain requirements. You have to be at least 25 years old, you have to live in the state that you represent, and you have to have been a citizen of the United States for at least 7 years. So this opens the door for a lot of people to be members of the House of Representatives. Of course, just meeting those requirements isn't enough. You have to win an election to hold that office or to hold that seat. But once that person gets elected, they serve for a 2-year term, which means if they want to continue their career, they have to get reelected every 2 years. And their job during that time is to represent a district, which is a section of a state, a piece of a state that includes a certain number of people. So they serve as the representative of the people that live in that district. And the kind of things that a House of Representatives member might do could be introducing bills, which are ideas for laws, working with laws, working with constituents who are the people that they represent, working with lobbyists that represent different interest groups, debating, editing, revising, amending, working on legislation, voting on bills, and just in general sort of coming up with the ideas and working through the process of making the laws that we use to govern our country. This map will give you an idea of how the 435 House of Representatives districts are organized around the country. You can see that some states have a lot of little divisions in them. Check out California. All of these sections here are districts. Each one of those districts is going to have, of course, roughly the same number of people in them. And the states that you notice that don't have any divisions within them are states where there's just one district, because the state itself has that rough number of people. So a state like Montana is only going to have one congressional district, whereas more populated states would have many more. This is how Virginia's map looks roughly. Our district, the one that we live in Charlottesville, is the 5th district, this yellow one here in the middle. And as of 2017, our representative for the 5th district, the person who was elected to represent this part of Virginia and the people that live there, is Tom Garrett, who you see pictured down in the bottom part of your screen. The Senate is a little different, smaller. It's a smaller organization. There's only 100 members to the Senate. And that number is calculated by the fact that each state has 2 senators. So 50 states, 100 senators. The requirements are a little different. senator has to be a little bit older. They must be 30 years old at least. They must also live in the state that they represent and have to be a citizen for at least 9 years. Their term is longer as well. They get elected every 6 years, and they represent the entire state that they're from. There's no districts for the Senate. You are a senator from the state. The Senate is a body that was designed by the Constitution to represent the states. So these senators speak for their state. They represent their entire state. And they do the same sort of things that members of the House of Representatives do, working on legislation, but they also have additional powers, such as confirming appointments, people that the president picks to do special jobs in Congress, in the government in general. So our two senators that represent the state of Virginia are Mark Warner, this gentleman here, and Tim Kaine. These two men are currently representing the state of Virginia as our senators. The picture that you see here at the top of the screen is a shot of what it looks like in the Senate when everybody's there and working. Let's talk a little bit about the powers that Congress has. Remember that there are several sort of categories of power that that Congress exercises, and one of those categories of power is called express powers. You also see this referred to sometimes as enumerated powers. Those two words refer to the same thing, and the idea that they represent is either expressed or enumerated, is that that power is specifically mentioned in the Constitution. So you could open up the document of the Constitution and find words in the Constitution that empower the Congress to do a certain specific thing. You're going to find examples like borrowing money, or regulating trade, or creating new taxes. Those are sort of things that are specifically spelled out in the Constitution and are the expressed or enumerated powers of Congress. The second category of power that Congress exercises is implied powers. Implied powers are not specifically mentioned in the Constitution, but they're things that Congress can do anyways. And the reason why Congress has permission to exercise implied powers is because there's a part of the Constitution called the Necessary and Proper Clause, which says that Congress can do those things that are necessary and proper to exercise its express powers. So this gives Congress a little bit of leeway and a little bit of an ability to adapt to a new situation, or maybe something that's not specifically mentioned in the Constitution. So think about sort of any kind of modern or real world situation where you might have to adapt or solve a problem. Chances are Congress is exercising some kind of implied power when they approach solving that situation. An important realm to understand when it comes to the powers of Congress is the way that Congress's checks and balances work. So this diagram here shows you basically how the checks and balances are organized. There are powers that each branch of the government has over the other branches. There are ways that one branch can control the other branch. And this is a really important feature of our government because it basically ensures that parts of the government will sort of serve as referees for other parts of the government and limit the power and limit the opportunity for other branches of government to kind of overstep their bounds and do things that the people might not want them to do. So checks and balances are really important in how we sort of control our government. And there's some specific things that Congress does that it uses to check and balance the other branches of the government. Here's a short list of the things that Congress can do to check the president. No matter who the president might be, these are powers that the Congress has over the president's actions. Recall that the president can veto a bill, but Congress can override the veto as long as they can pull together a 2/3 vote in both houses. So even if the president forbids a law with a veto, Congress can overstep that and make that law official anyways. Congress also has the impeachment power, so they can accuse a president of misdeed, put them on trial, potentially have them removed. The Senate, the specific part of Congress, has the power to approve all the treaties that a president might make with another country. And the Senate also has the power to approve the people that a president nominates for important government jobs in the cabinet or other parts of the bureaucracy. So there's quite a few very specific things that Congress can do to exercise power over the president. And in terms of checking and balancing the courts or the judicial branch, Congress has the power to impeach judges if needed, and the Senate has the power to approve all judges. So Supreme Court justices, the people who work at other judge jobs and at the federal court level, all have to be approved by the Senate before they can hold any sort of power. So take a few minutes and complete the reflection questions that are attached to your notes. We're going to discuss those in class when we talk about this together, and I will see you then.